For the latest in strategic affairs, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click the bell icon for updates.
Welcome to the Gist on Strat News Global. Good evening, I'm Surya Gangadharan. Is Myanmar's military junta on its last legs? They've suffered a series of reverses in the last few weeks, if not months. Some of their camps have been overrun, their cadres, their fighters, soldiers captured. And it seems that the coalition of rebel ethnic groups that is fighting them is on the rise. They appear to be gaining new ground, gathering strength, and apparently gathering support. To get a sense of what exactly is going on there and the current situation, I have with me, standing by in Bangalore, PM Heblikar, former Special Secretary to the government. He's been following Myanmar's developments closely. Sir, what is your reading of the ground situation now?
Surya, let me first thank you for inviting me to the show. It's always
Most
great
welcome,
to be
sir.
back. It's
Most
always
welcome.
great to be back on your show. The military situation in Myanmar today is unprecedented. The mighty Myanmar war machine is on the retreat. And I think the Tomado is it's just a shadow of its former self. In the last several months, it has suffered a series of setbacks. And what happened on 10th of October, we have Operation 1027, which is also known as the Brotherhood Alliance of three important ethnic armed organizations consisting of the Myanmar National Defense Alliance Army, the Taang People's Liberation Army, and the Arakan Army. They scored a series of runaway successes against the military in the northern Shan state, which had led to the closure of border with China. The implication is that the military is unable to retrieve lost ground. And this also has resulted in billions of dollars worth of loss in trade to the Chinese, who usually use routes at the northern Shan state. Along with the three members of the Brotherhood Alliance, then you have the People's Defense Forces led by the National Unity Government and the Kachin Independence Army that have formed a broad coalition. These five, I think, are the largest, most experienced and veteran fighters against the Myanmar army. And along you have the Chin army, which is fighting in the areas opposite our Mizoram state. Then we have the people in Rakhine state that have taken up arms. So as a result, we find that the Myanmar army is unable to coordinate its operations in different directions all the time. Secondly, the criticality of the situation is perhaps reported when the military leader, Senior General Min Aung Hlaing, convened the second meeting of the National Defense and Security Council about 10 days ago to review the situation caused by the Operation 1027, as also the problems that Myanmar is facing with China in the northern borders. Media reports said that he described the situation as an existential threat to Myanmar. I think that sums up the situation we are seeing today. It's gone back from bad to worse. It's gone to the next level. And I think the rebel armed organizations and the anti-government forces are now slowly gaining the upper hand.
Tell me, are there divisions within the military top leadership? Is this general position under threat?
Surya, I think it's now nearly 3 years since Myanmar had the elections, parliamentary elections, in November 2020. And on 1st February 2021, the military took over power. And at that point of time, it was felt that the military had done a grave miscalculation about the ground realities. It thought it would be a walkover as it was in the earlier times. However, ground realities, ground situation has proved that the military was wrong in its assessment. and whatever it had in its mind, it has achieved the opposite. It has now brought people together. What one interesting aspect is, in the past, the anti-government operations were mainly in the ethnic states.
Mm-hmm.
But today they are in predominantly Barmar divisions, which means that the anti-government military agitation has taken on a new turn. Previously, the Barmar community was not fully involved in such kind of activities. I think yes, the government is facing serious problems, and I think these problems are not going to go away unless the government makes substantial change. Secondly, I think the senior leadership of former senior general Tanshvi and others who had brought in a modicum of quasi-democracy are,
Yeah.
are happy with the turn of events. They thought that the 2008 constitution would pave the way for the military to continue in power. This has not happened. Thirdly, you will find that in the last couple of weeks, there have been several senior generals of the rank of lieutenant generals or three-star generals who have been removed from office on charges of corruption. And some
Mm-hmm.
of these were very close to Min Aung Hlaing. To my mind, it means that there is a serious rift within the ruling junta, and that some of the things which the general had in his mind are just not giving him the kind of results he has in mind. Fourthly, as I was given to understand, a large number of young army officers, navy officers, and air force officers had aspired to be parliamentarians under the 25% quota in the.
Mm-hmm.
Now they have been dragged there. So there is a sense of anger that they would have been MPs rather than fighting for their lives in the field. I think overall, and mind you, you have a lot number of desertions taking place, defections taking place, Myanmar army formations not being able to deliver results. And just imagine the 39 soldiers who crossed over into Myanmar a few days ago with full equipment. What does it mean? That there is a certain amount of command control problems.
Yeah.
So I think
Mm-hmm.
overall, Min Aung Hlaing has a serious problem on his hand. I don't know how he's going to resolve it. And I think he has got another 3 months' time before the third year of the coup takes place. He needs to come up with something which could be out of the box. I don't know where it is going to end.
Mm-hmm. Now let's look at the rebel groups. Are they working under a common leadership? Are they coordinating attacks? And where are they getting their arms, ammunition, other supplies from?
Okay, let me take the second question first. When the opposition to the government began, the people who were in Rangoon and in the urban areas, I think, had devised their own homemade weapons to take on the army.
Mm-hmm.
But if you notice that the five organizations which today are arranged against the military are all armed, and they have in excess of about 30 to 40,000 veterans who have fought at different points of time, and they are well equipped, they're well armed, they have their sources for weapons, medical supplies, logistics, and I think there is a lot of weaponry that is available in the northern Shan states or in areas
Yeah.
bordering Laos and Thailand. So I don't think that they are at any loss for weapons. Plus, a large number of weapons which have been surrendered by the army, the police, the militia, and others. Huge numbers. If you look at the company level weapons, the battalion level weapons, I think it's very, very astounding that such weaponry is now changed hands and gone to the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as the coalition is concerned, like I mentioned earlier, the Brotherhood Alliance seems to be coordinating its attacks with the NUG affiliated armed units. And I think there was a statement made by one of the leaders of the Brotherhood Alliance that the attacks on the government would now be coordinated and they would be nationwide, and one of their targets would be the national capital at Naypyidaw. And I
Oh,
think
gosh.
that there is, on the military front, there is coordination, and I think that coordination is showing a lot of results.
Mhm. So, is Aung San Suu Kyi even remotely a factor here? I know she's under in jail and all that, but I mean, is there some loyalty to the fact that she's?
No, as far as I look at it, Aung San Suu Kyi is and has always been an icon of democracy in that country. She's some kind of, she was not a politician, and I think she didn't express any traits of being a politician even when she was state councillor.
Yeah.
So people see her as a democratic icon. She's not a politician, and had there been a greater sense of of political acumen in the NLD, they would have perhaps taken a different stand when the army accused them of fraudulently conducting and creating results to favor the NLD. I
Hmm.
think all the time there was that opposition to what the military wanted to do. So I think, secondly, that I feel that the NLD does not have a second line. If there is, we don't know. And I think most of the political parties in Myanmar today do not have a second line. And what to talk about the political vacuum? We don't have political leaders, as you would find in any neighboring countries, who would rise to the occasion and talk about things which would be very broadly heard by people. There isn't. I think even if tomorrow there is hypothetically a situation that elections are held, I'm sure NLD will come to power. But I don't think people want the old guard to continue. They will look at somebody new. So as far as Aung San Suu Kyi is concerned, she can become a margadarshak, as in our sense.
Mm-hmm. So you don't see the old leadership coming back, either in the military or the civil.
No, I think as far as the military is concerned, it's learned its lessons. One thing is very clear: the military will never win a you know, democratically conducted elections in the country.
Yeah.
They are not possible. The last three exercises have proved it beyond doubt that military, through its protege, the BSPP, will not be in a position to form the government. And as far as the NLD is concerned, I think there were a lot of murmurs, even in the run-up to the last elections, that people were feeling that the NLD had become too overbearing. NLD had, little internal democracy, and that though people liked the NLD for the reason that they didn't want the army to come to power, but they
Yeah.
also want some change in the ruling party. And that's where the whole thing has to start.
Where is India in all this?
I think, as I look at it, ever since the coup, the government of India has always, at several fora, said that the country should return to democracy and stop violence. To the effect that even our senior leaders have visited Myanmar to consult with the leadership. I think, according to the media reports in the Burmese language media, our deputy NSA, Vikram Misri, has visited Myanmar. He's met with the ruling junta. And I feel that, yes, there has been a continuous Indian, uh, Indian leaders or Indian civil servants meeting the Burmese. I think a lot of messages have been exchanged. We don't know uh, how this whole thing is turned out, but I should draw your attention to an article which appeared in the Press Trust of India on the 6th of November, where a reference was made to a statement of a possible Myanmar US Indian Army exercises at Umroi Cant near Meghalaya.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
think if it's going to happen, it will be perhaps a step in the right direction. It is one of the other areas of military diplomacy we've been talking about, because I think the generals in AP though understand that if they are spoken to by the military, perhaps there could be some change in their thinking. But I think it is too early to speculate as to which direction it is going to take. But I think overall, it will be another couple of more weeks to see how this anti-government agitation, military operations take place, and how the government of the military government is going to respond, because I think the military government has burnt its ports with the regional community, ASEAN, and now even after the visit of the Cambodian strongman to Myanmar recently, I think we found that the synergy was missing. So I
So,
think
last
it's,
question.
yeah.
In terms of our own security, the one issue that has been exercised our mind when we deal with the Myanmaris, is there a complete breakdown in the border areas now, given the fact that all these Myanmar guys were crossed over?
But Surya, let me again preface this with a general statement. Most all of Yangon's neighbors have found a great dilemma in dealing with the military leadership. You never know what they have in mind and what they do next, because the Chinese have found it to their own discomfort. So have the Thais, the Bangladeshis, and we have also understood what the military mind has to do. However, if you look at the four states that border Myanmar, Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, have been peaceful. There have been no
Yeah.
signs of any exodus to the other side. Manipur, there has been but little, because there have been, um, issues of ethnicity across the border. But the biggest brunt has been borne in Mizoram because of its long border and the kind of familiar relationship people have across the border. I think today the refugees from Myanmar must be in excess of about 40,000 people. So I think if and the 39, 40 odd people who have come back are the ones who had to flee their border towns because of indiscriminate use of heavy weapons by the Myanmar army. And I think we are going to see much more happening of refugees coming across to our side if the military violence continues the way it is. I think that's
What
where I
about
look
those
at.
insurgent groups that the Myanmar army is supposed to be, keeping at bay? What's the update there?
As far as the you're talking about the Indian groups.
Yes, yes, yeah.
No, I think most of the groups which were banned by the government of India recently, 2 days ago, are all operating in Myanmar in one way or the other. And I think there have been in the past also, there has been a lot of nexus between them and the Burmese intelligence and security forces. And I think the Burmese would still try to use some of them for their other purposes. You have drug smuggling is on the increase. You have weapons smuggling, and you have a lot of people who will come across because of the troubled areas in the border.
So a tough call there, and let's see going forward what happens.
Yes.
Mr. Heblikar, thank you very much for that insight and perspective. Good listening to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me on the show. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And that's all we have for you on this edition of The Gist. Do subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on social media. Thank you very much. Good night.